So let's do part 3 where we start to implement the inline confirmation for the UI of, in this case, a delete. But some of the code that we're going to write, because of the way it's going to be written, will actually be setting us up for edit as well. So in our table render.js, go ahead and copy these 3 lines, and then at the top, and I'm going to do it right after we've set the variable for current callbacks, is set those up. So these are going to be state variables for managing inline row confirmation for the delete button. And this is going to store the TD, and you'll see how this is set to action cell in a minute. And then we'll review what that is, the action cell, and then this will store that timeout. And I don't know if we'll get to timeout today, but we'll have it here so we have it later. So set these 2 variables up, current confirming row element and current confirm timeout ID. Okay, so now down, and most of what we're going to do is going to be down here in our handle, okay, that we've written so far. And we already got to see what some of this was, so we'll do that as well. And if I didn't already do so, go ahead in your app.js, take off or uncomment out that handle delete entry, because like I said, we've already done it here, but we need to, and this is setting us up for now, and I'm going to close that, because we need to think about at this point, right, we just wouldn't want to call this until we've made sure, right, because we now have some information about the target, the ID, and the action cell. So let's just confirm what those are. So in the dev tools, I'm going to set the breakpoint here. At the breakpoint here. I'm going to hit the delete. Right, so we already know what target is. We actually looked at this already. So we know in this case, and you can see by looking over to, in this case, the left in the site, you can see what the target is. Okay, so we know in this case the click, based on the event, because we're passing the event to this, is the delete button, okay, and we can see that is the entire reference, and if we wanted to, we're going to see it here. But now let's actually look at the ID. So in this case, we're pulling off that target. So notice there's so much information that comes back to us from this target, and we're not going to need this for right now. So there's so much, and in this case, we're looking at the data set, give me the ID. Okay, and now this one is really nice because it's basically saying, hey, give me the closest TD that you have for this, and let's call that, now let's reference that as the action cell. So that's the entire TD itself, right? It includes the edit button and the delete button. So let's go ahead and log, so we see that in this case, the target, event target was the delete button. Okay, and also the other thing I want you to notice here is when we're looking at, so notice this button dot action dash button dot delete. So when we're looking at the event and we're looking, these end up being the classes, okay, and this we're going to use to handle our logic. So keep this in mind as we move on to the next point. But again, right here, and we could go ahead and let it run because we know what it's going to do. It's going to get rid of it, okay, which is awesome. Okay, so let's get rid of this for a second. Let's come over to our code, okay. And now that we've looked at this, let's comment this out because we don't want to run this until we make sure the user has clicked the submit and that we have the correct callback. Those are the 2 conditions we're going to code for. Now you could talk about other conditions to code for, but in this case we're going to do a, if, in what condition we want to say if the target dot class list, and this is what I was referring to before, and I'll show it to you when we run it, dot contains. So dot contains is something we have not seen before, but it's basically, in JavaScript, it's a method. It's either used on the node content or on the string, right? So it's actually looking at the DOM, and in this case, our target, right, and would it be, yeah, it would be looking for, does it contain the target event? Does it contains actually, does it because it's looking inside of it, and we're going to say, hey, does that actually, let's pass it delete, okay? So if our target class list, and that's what I was showing before, if somewhere in there is a delete, we at least know that. So then we can say and. So remember, this has to be resolved to true. I'll show you how to see that in a minute. And whatever we put on this side, because we're using the and, both of these have to be true for the block that we're going to run here to be run, to be activated, to run this block. So we can't get here if both this is not true and what we're about to put here. Now on this side, we're going to say type of. And we're going to reference that current callbacks dot on delete. So we're saying, hey, also look at the callbacks and tell me what type of, what is it? Is it triple equal? So before we just told it, give us what that is, but now we're saying, let's evaluate that and tell me, is that a function? Now, why would I want to know that? Well, I want to make sure I have an on delete, because if there's something else that maybe I need to check for later, right, it won't run this line. So I'm saying, hey, did the class list contain delete? And did the type of, on the callbacks on delete, is that a function? And if these two things are true, then let's do something, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to say current, because we set this, current configuring role. This is one of the variables we set for state that we started this one talking about. And so we'll set this equal to action sale. And so we're telling, this kind of like what we did before when we did the first click, right? And in that case, we set something. So now we're just saying, hey, we have this active cell, right? And because we're doing more than just the clearing of the clearing of storage, we have to do a little more work. So now we're going to set up a new function, okay? This is a new function we have not written yet. So show delete confirming buttons. Okay. This function that we'll write in a minute is going to need three things. Okay, it's going to need the action cell. Okay, so whichever is the active cell, the action cell is what we're looking for. Okay, so we're saying, hey, is that action cell, and pass it the ID, and it also needs that current callbacks on delete. So we're going to pass those reference. Now, could we just depend on the fact that the private variable or the global variable inside the module is there and set? We could, but this just makes sure we have a reference to it. Okay, so now we're going to call that, right? Now, what's the else? We haven't, but if you think about it, what would be the else? So if it's not delete, what's the other one we're going to look for? So it's actually, in this case, we could just say, if it's not, then could we say it's edit? Well, we could, but we probably need to be, not probably, we need to be more precise. So we could say if, again, in this case, right, let's actually grab this, okay? Because what's going to be different here, okay? Oh, did I get too much? Yeah, okay. So if the target class contains edit and the on edit, now we haven't written this. We're just kind of, as we're doing it, we're just kind of handling both, okay? So if it's edit, if it contains edit and the current callback is a function, then later, and for now, we'll just say, hey, edit will be coded later. Okay, so we know we're in the edit condition right here. Okay, we have then met this condition. So let's actually now show you how. But actually, let's go ahead and just at least set up this show delete confirming buttons. Okay, let's start coding it itself. Okay, so I'm going to come up here and let me see, do I have, yeah, okay, so all right, so let's actually add before we leave the handler, because there was some content I wanted to add into here, right? So this first one is handle delete button click, initial click to show confirmation, okay? Handle it, okay? So in this case, let's look here, okay? We're going to check to see if the target has the delete class and if the onDelete callback has been provided. Okay, so this condition and this condition have to be true. Okay, so now let's actually go over and we're going to code our function. Now, I could put this, various places, but I think I'd like to put it right here. Okay, and I already grabbed that content, so you do the same, right, from here, right? So here it's going to show, confirm, delete, and cancel buttons, hiding the original ones. You'll see this. It's going to set a timeout. I don't think we're going to get to that today, or on this one. We have an incoming parameter of the HTML, the action cell. We have a string coming in, which is the ID, and we have a function coming in. Okay, so we have those three, those comments, then I've already done them, so you didn't have to watch me go copy and paste them. So in here, I'm going to set it up. I'm going to say, in this case, show, delete confirmation buttons. Okay, now remember what it needs, right? It needs the action cell. Now I could name it something different, but action cell seems fine. I also, this function needs the ID. Oh, actually, my bad. I'm writing a named function. Okay. And what else do we want here? So in this case, this is where we're passing that function. So I'm actually going to call it onDelete callback. Does that actually make sense? Yeah, onDelete callback. Now, I could have kept it the same name, but just so it's scoped locally into here with a different variable. Okay. In case it's got a conflict with the global for some reason. Okay, so now that I have my function, okay, let's actually grab now. We're going to hide the original buttons. Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to do. And how do we do that? Well, this is kind of cool because a lot of this we've done, but this is a little twist on it. So we're going to say let's set up the reference to the, the button itself, the edit button. And now you might wonder, why are we looking at the edit button even though we're handling the delete? Because in this case, remember, I guess I actually have to do this. Oh, I don't have it yet. I'll show you in a minute why we have to, because we have both an edit and a delete inside of there. So we're going to say this is equal to the action cell. And now we can query we can do query selector on that because it's an HTML element. And we could say, hey, look for query to give me the button, okay, dot edit. This is what I was showing you before, and we use for our logic, but also, hey, give me back a reference to the button by querying the action cell and looking for the action button class and the edit class. And this dot, even though in HTML we see it with a space, here it's a dot. Okay, so I'm going to do that little trick. I'm going to do this, but now I'm going to do the delete. So I'm going to do the delete button. Okay, the only difference on this one is instead of dot edit, it's going to be dot delete. Cool. Okay, so give me a reference to those buttons, and now I can say if edit button. Now, unless something weird happens, you're going to have an edit button because we know we render them. But who knows? We still want to see, is it true? Just make sure I have one. And remember before, if we only are doing one expression, we don't have to do this. Okay, all we can do is say, if this is true, then do this. Okay, so look at it and say, okay, edit button dot style dot display equal what? None. In other words, hide it. And then if delete button, okay, delete button dot style. I could have also duplicated this one is equal to none. So hide both of them. Now we could, and again, it's good to test. Okay, so let's just do it. Let's actually do the testing. And actually in the case, let's do this to show you what I was talking about before, which in the handle click. Okay, so here we go. I'm actually going to click the delete so we actually get all the information that we need. So here I'm first evaluating, and I could, and this is what's going to run right now. Oh, actually, I need to let it actually step into that. So if I roll back over here, if I want to know, I could roll and select that, and it'll say true. And this is an easy way for you to determine if what you've written here, in the case that you're running it, in the situation you're running it, did it resolve to true? Okay, and then in this case, we know it did. It's like, yeah, it looked at the class, and yes, it contained delete. And now we can do the same thing over here. We can say, hey, is that type of, right? Oh yeah, I didn't use, and if you're going to do this, you actually have to select the whole thing. It's like, yeah, the type of callback on delete is a function. So we know that this is true. So we've set the, in this case, the global variable in the module to action cell, and now we've called show delete. We've come into here. Now we're here. We've passed in, right? We've passed in all the things. And now we've set up a reference to the edit button, to the delete button. And watch what's going to happen is we're going to say, hey, make that none and make that none. Uh-oh. What did I forget? Oh, see, this is why you test. Query selector, action, ATN, action cell, query selector. Just make sure I have it. Edit. Okay, let's actually look at it. So in this case, let's make sure. So action dash button delete, action dash button edit. Okay, so those are indeed the things that we're looking for. Okay, we know we have the delete button that we've clicked on. So why wouldn't delete action cell dot query selector those look right? Okay, let me pause and find it. Oh, minor mistake, but a mistake nonetheless. Because remember, these are classes. If I don't do dot here, it's looking for something that does not exist because this is telling it, hey, look at the class. Okay, query selector, the class. Cool. Okay, so let's try it again. Good. Good. Okay, so we're passing in this. So now, and now we could say, oh, okay, now I have access. I have reference to the edit button. I have reference to the delete button. And so now comes the magic, the magi down here. Okay, hit none, none, boom, they're gone. That's awesome. So the first thing we're going to do in the process of confirming is we first have to get rid of them. Okay, so that's kind of the first thing, right? So now what are we going to do next? So now we're going to create new buttons. Okay, so we're going to create a, unlike, again, just to confirm, unlike here, we only had one button and we updated the content, we changed the class. Here we have going to have a lot of buttons and we want to have our code handle it no matter how many entries are in here. So this is why we're looking for particular conditions, and now we're going to change this to for this particular cell, right? Only in this cell, even if we have, matter of fact, let's go ahead and get a couple more so we can see this, right? So now we have several. So depending on which one we click, because it's specific in the ID, and that's the important part of that. Okay, so now coming over here, so now we're going to create, okay, create and append. So what are we going to create? We're going to create a button. And so in this case, we'll say const confirm b TN. That's a very common abbreviation for button in this case. Okay, equal document dot create element. Now, in this case, we've seen create element, but we're seeing it again, where it's saying actually create an element that is a button. Remember, nothing has been updated to the DOM. We are only creating the element here. And now the other thing we can do is say, hey, on that button, set text content, because right now it's just a button with nothing. Okay, equal to, and here's our confirm delete. Here's what the user is going to see on that button. And we're going to say that button dot, okay, class list, because we want to add, this is some of the classes that we added at the beginning of this section. So action dash button, okay, is one of them. And in this case, we're adding two, okay? So we actually have to put both in quotes and then confirm. Yeah, confirm. Okay, so because this is the confirmed, so there was a confirmed class that we brought in when we brought that up, and we'll see that when we actually look at the output. And so the other thing we want to do is on this button, we also want to set the dataset dot ID equal to the ID we're passing in, because again, we need this unique identifier. Okay. Okay, so now that we have this, we're just going to do the same concept, but now with a cancel. So I'm going to do my little nice duplicate. I selected all the ones from there. And there's another nice thing you can do here. And I'm going to, for me, it's the Alt command. And I can do this. And then what this allows me to do, which is totally awesome, is I can just come in here and say, you know what, this is the cancel. C-A-N-C-E-L. So that multi-line selection, so you could actually go do, how do you do it for Mac, option, command, and then use your arrows, okay? And then all I'd have to do is come up here then. And again, you know, I know what I need to do, so let me just try to do it a little easier, okay? So BTN, that looks okay. I was trying to figure out why I was getting that message. Could not find, nope. Oh, duh, yeah, that's why. Okay, by the way, that was a great little indicator. I'm glad I looked at it. Okay, so now that I have these buttons, right, now that I have created two buttons, I'm not going to see them in here yet, okay? I'm not going to see them because I haven't done the next part, right, which is, oh, by the way, we added, this is where we added, and we did it on both of them, we added styling, okay? So this is the adding styling. So now what do we want to do? We're going to update the table. Okay, so now to update the table, and we've seen this command before. Okay, so now we're going to say, hey, all right, let's update, let's actually place, so we're going to say action cell, because that's the DOM reference that we are currently dealing with, append child, confirm button, and action cell dot append child cancel button. Oh, that's so awesome, right? So this code so far is we're going to show delete, right? So we're handling the delete, and because we're handling the delete, we also have to get rid of the edit button, even though we're not actively coding for that yet. You'll see why when we get to the next step. So let's see if our code's working. All right, so let's get rid of this one because now I have a few more lines, and actually let's just come up here. We don't need to see the other part. Let's come up here, come to here, all right, let this run. Good. Okay, so now we have to click on one. So now let's click on, I'm going to click on the third one. Okay, so I have it, oh, good, I see which one I have. Good. I'm going to get a reference to the edit to delete. I'm going to get rid of the edit and delete of just that one. Whew. I mean, really, you need to kind of let your mind wrap around what our code is doing, right? It's only because of that a data set ID, that unique number we're using, we can target just one row. Okay? And so now we're going to create a button. We're going to change its text content, right? It's not on the DOM yet. We're going to create the cancel button, create its text content, give it a class, give it the ID, and now these two lines is where the magic happens, and now we get, oh, I see I forgot to put cancel on the other one. That's okay. So now I see, except for my missing the other context, we got it. Okay. So on this one, this would be cancel. Cool. All right. That's awesome. All right. So let's do it for another one and just let it run. That's great. Okay. Did I also get the, oh, I didn't. Okay, good. Here I also forgot to put on the cancel because I was remembering that was a different class. So let's try this one now. Let's watch it run. Oh, that's great. That's the outcome we want so far. Okay, that's the outcome we want. And again, the reason this is outputting is because it's still, there's an event listener, right, for the handle, the table click that's outputting these items right now. But our logic, and this is a good place to end this one, our logic is not allowing, it's not meeting our conditions of a delete or an edit and the function for the on edit and the on delete. So right now all it's doing is saying, hey, there's your target that you have. Okay, so for this one, you're going to get some more practice with these conditional statements because these are going to help what you'll use to write your decision app, your logic when you get there. But having some good experience with using and or when writing conditional statements is really, really helpful. So the more you write them, the more comfortable you'll get. And then we'll go ahead and commit this code. All right. We only have a little bit more for this one, so we'll get through that. It should be relatively short on the next one.